she only knew, that would just be the beginning. Which for a 9-year-old is really scary, and in general it's just scary. Like, you know, you have a body, you'd like it if all the parts could stay together and work as they're supposed to. Sometimes you just have to like get over it, but like I could not. Hello and welcome back to another video. Today is Wednesday, April 11th, and I'm going to be doing kind of a different video, and although I feel like I say that in every single video, it's really going to be diverted away from a mental health focus, because I will be talking about my knee journey, or essentially how my knees have impacted, I guess, my mental health or my anxiety throughout my whole entire life, because it's been a big part, because I've had problems with my legs and knees and feet ever since I was born, and since I've hinted at things here and there on my channel but not really explained them in detail, I feel like you can't quite understand what I'm talking about or where I'm coming from without me actually explaining it. So I would like to do these every second week, so that way you're getting something else other than just my knee story, but it will probably take like 4 months if I do it that way. But yes, so this will be a series, and I will be hopefully trying to post more actively on this one compared to the other ones, especially because it has now become relevant again in my life after them being alright for a decent period of time, and now it's affecting my life again, but I can't really explain it now without being able to understand the rest of what my history was like. If you are unaware, I have, or I guess had, knee dysplasia, which I will explain later on, and I've been through 3 operations in order to attempt to stop them from dislocating. But as I did mention, it is relevant still to my channel, because not only is it a big part of me and who I am, so if you are to watch my videos, you'll hopefully be able to better understand like where I'm coming from and where my mindset's at when I'm explaining anything to do with anxiety or my experiences or updates or whatever. And it's where a lot of my anxiety stems from. If you have been watching my videos for a while, or you've seen 1 or 2, I've probably mentioned something to do with hallway anxiety or knee anxiety, or my particular problem with pain where I am anxious with pain and avoiding of it. So I am starting in order, which means this episode specifically will be probably from when I was born to like 10 years old or so. It's gonna be a quick little summary. I'll try to make it quick, but I still need to give you enough detail to understand like what situation I was in. Please keep in mind that most of these things I'm talking about I've kind of like repressed in my mind for a long period of time, either because like they were particularly traumatic or difficult for me to live through, or I just like forgot about them and haven't thought about it for a while until like last night. And maybe you're not even here for the mental health, but you just want to know why the heck I'm like the way that I am, and that would be great. I was born with clubbed feet, and if you're unaware what that means, pretend my hands are feet for a minute. They're turned like inwards rather than like duck feet, if you've heard of that, which is like outwards, but mine were inwards to the point where it's almost like backwards. Like they were in and back further than is like acceptable. And therefore I was put in casts from pretty much like the time I was born. I think it was like a week in or something, for at least a few months, if not up to a year. So I ended up being in like screaming agony for most of my infanthood, having braces and casts to try to like physically turn your legs and muscles to like a certain point probably hurts a lot. Plus I was a baby, so I couldn't just like not scream, you know, like if it hurts you're gonna scream. I was very problematic as a child, not that I meant to be at all. Obviously I was in pain, I couldn't help it, but it just took so much more work for me, and unfortunately my mother was the one who mostly had to put up with that. So I also had separation anxiety, and still do. Thanks, Mom, for putting up with me. If she only knew, that would just be the beginning. My parents also had to do physio on my legs and feet, so just like stretches to try to like turn them out and like push it back. And the purpose of that obviously was to get it to like a functional spot where I could like walk, but it also ended up avoiding an operation that I was gonna have to put my feet more straight or something. I didn't start walking till I was about 2. Even when I did start walking as a young child, like, I hated it. It was just uncomfortable for me, like physically uncomfortable, and obviously I couldn't really explain it because it's not like I knew what was going on, but I just like didn't like it. By the way, it's not like my feet ever completely like straightened out to the point that they're supposed to, and they still, like, even now don't have maximum like stretching. I can only stretch them up a little bit. And I couldn't walk for long periods of time. Going out shopping even, I couldn't really stand for any longer than like half an hour without becoming even more uncomfortable than usual. And like running, I avoided it whenever I possibly could. Also, I walked and ran very weird, as I soon figured out. You know when you like take a step and you just like bend your knee a little bit to like get it to the next point? Well, I would like bend my knee like excessively. I'd often also trip over my feet while I was walking, and I remember one time my mom like got mad at me for it. Like, I shouldn't keep tripping over my feet, like watch where you're going, you know, like that's like dumb. But they were still turned in. Like, I was just trying to walk, but I'd keep tripping over my boots because it would like overlap so much. The key point here is that I was always like physically uncomfortable, but I didn't understand why. Standing is supposed to be like normal, like you stand, you walk, you do whatever you need to do, and you don't have to think about it, right? It's just like something you do naturally. It didn't really come naturally for me. I always hated gym, like dreaded gym every single day. I'm already tiny. Like, imagine, like, I'm like 5 foot, like, now. So imagine, like, me tiny, like, as a tiny little child, smaller than everybody else in my classes, always. So I don't have big, fast, strong legs or anything like that to begin with. I can't keep up with everybody else. Fun fact, my grade 5 gym teacher gave me a D in gym because I couldn't do anything, really, honestly, until my mother, like, yelled at him, because like I always tried my absolute best. Like, I tried, like I hated sucking at it. My legs were only comfortable, or I only felt safe when my knees were bent. That's including when I was sitting, because otherwise they just felt like they didn't really belong straight. Even now though, like I always sit with my knees up. Like, you've probably seen my video, the tops of my knees or the blanket. Like, here we go. Now sitting with my knees bent. It's comfortable. For some context, I was like in grade 4. It was like March, I think, or something. I was 9. There were 2 separate incidents that kind of started this, and I don't really remember which was first, but we're gonna go with this one, where I was just walking along with my friends, because, you know, that's a whole other thing. I didn't really have, like, real, like, friends, even though I was, like, 9. And, like, do real friends even exist when you're 9? Who knows? I don't know, but I was just walking along, kind of like walking fast because I was trying to keep up because, you know, I'm small, have little legs, can't like keep up with the crowd. I was like in the school field thing, and I still don't know what these are called, but they're like little sunken in parts of the ground where it has like a plasticky rubber kind of thing over top of it. Anyway, it was just like kind of like a hole in the ground, and I didn't know it was there, and it shouldn't have mattered, but so I stepped into that like whole thing, and then the next thing I knew, I was on the ground and in excruciating pain, and I didn't understand like what happened. I'm like, oh my god, did I break my leg? Because I was like 9. I didn't know any other type of pain like that. I asked my friends to call over the supervisors. Eventually, I do remember being pulled up, despite the fact that I was in excruciating pain and confused and anxious as heck because I had no idea what was going on. But I was told to like get up because, like, you know, nothing was broken or bruised or like whatever, like it looked fine. So then I just kind of limped around for the rest of the day, and I was super confused, and then I got home and told my mom what happened. But like when I fell on the ground, like I couldn't just get back up despite the fact that I was being like told to get up. I'm like, you know, I'm just gonna like sit here for a minute, like I can't get up right now. Maybe they just all thought I was being weak, which is possible because I have such like a tiny, small amount, like small pain tolerance, like, plus I was 9, like leave me alone. I think it was about 10 minutes or so probably that I had to wait, and then eventually I got up and was taken to the office. I think like one of the supervisors helped me like walk over there, like, you know, with like one arm on someone and one arm on someone else to take some of the weight off my leg because it was really weak. Like suddenly I didn't have any, it was like I didn't really have any muscle. Like if I put pressure on it, like it would just kind of like it couldn't support the weight of me very well. The second one, or the first one, depending on which came first. Anyways, it was again on like a lunchtime. We had like a baseball diamond thing, and it had like that chalky red sandy stuff. But I was just walking along. It had like rained the other day, so it was like a little bit wet. I think it might have been slippery, and I slipped and the same thing happened. I was in the same amount of pain, and I had explained to the supervisors again, like it happened before, but I like still don't know what's wrong. My mom ended up taking me to the doctor, like the same doctor that had helped me through my like feet stuff when I was little. He eventually explained to us what was happening, or what he thought was happening, which is that my knees were dislocating. Which for a 9-year-old is really scary, and in general it's just scary. Like, you know, you have a body, you'd like it if all the parts could stay together and work as they're supposed to. I remember this one time like standing at the park where my mom was talking to like a friend or stranger that she met and decided to tell my life story to, which happens really frequently. I went over and stood there because she's like, Emma, come here for a second. So I'm like, all right, and then I stood there, and then she like showed the person she was talking to my knees, which were my kneecaps or whatever, which were turned sideways when straightened. Yeah, you see the sideways thing? But this time they were turned like out. Like normal kneecaps would just kind of like chillin', you know, just like sit there. But they were like turned sideways when I had straight legs. And it was freaky, freaked me out, freaked everybody else out. What was happening is that my kneecaps were dislocating outwards. For both those times, it was my left knee that would dislocate. It's more common to have your kneecaps dislocate outwards, so you know, at least I'm normal for that. They can also dislocate inwards or upwards. And I guess because they were like the patella or whatever was like sideways, that it was just like slipping off the small indentation. The little curve thing that's supposed to hold your kneecap, mine was a lot more flat than it was supposed to be, and because I was little and didn't have much muscle anyways, it just made it easier for it to like slip out, like the kneecap just to slip out. Soon found out also that it like slipped out but went back in, because sometimes when knees dislocate, or I'm sure you've heard like horror stories of having to like hammer something that's dislocated back in. Thankfully, mine actually went like back in every time. Like it was just like in like a second, like it dislocated and then like relocated itself. But I still lost balance and fell to the ground every single time. But like it wasn't holding me up because it wasn't really connected. It like wasn't where it was supposed to be, so it didn't have the stability that I needed to walk on it. So my leg would like kind of collapse. This dislocation, as I soon found out later on, would happen in what I would call the no-go zone, which is essentially between bent and straight at a certain angle. It was from like this angle, from like here to like here is when it would turn sideways, but especially like here, like just a little bit bent, was the danger zone. Technically, when my knees were straight, they were hyperextended. Like, I wasn't diagnosed with anything to do with hyperextension, but that's kind of what happened because I didn't have a, like, in-between ground. You can either fully straighten your leg, or you can kind of, like, relieve some pressure and, like, stand there, like, shifting your weight. I couldn't shift my weight. It was all straight or like bent. It took me a while to figure that out, so I learned my rules and what to do and not to do in order to attempt to keep myself safe, because obviously I wanted to prevent that excruciating pain. Maybe it was more scary than painful because I didn't really know what was going on and I couldn't control it, and I didn't like that, so I tried to control it. I've experienced this before with like my arms, like when you're opening a door, or like you kind of like hit your arm the wrong way, but it's like straight and you're like pushing on something, and it's just like, it's kind of in that similar area that I was talking about, like where things don't really align and it kind of like squishes and you get like a little zing in your elbow. That's like what's supposed to happen. Anyways, after that appointment with the doctor, or few appointments, or whatever happened, I eventually started physiotherapy. This wasn't my first rodeo. And it was like a really hard adjustment for me because I didn't want to do the exercises. Like, I knew no one else had to do them. It wasn't that aggressively physically difficult on me, but like I felt my body working and like moving, and like I just like felt the process of muscle building essentially for the first time, and I didn't like it. Like, some people enjoy running and exercising and pushing themselves, but I didn't enjoy physically pushing myself because I was already physically uncomfortable. So doing the certain activities with my legs just didn't feel right at all, and I just really didn't like it. So at first I needed a lot of like encouragement and motivation, and my mom or dad would have to do them with me and like time me. I've been talking about how I can't really like build muscle very well, and yeah, I'm tiny, and yeah, I was like 9 and didn't really get how that all worked, but I also have this thing called XXX syndrome. I do want to do another separate video on this so I can explain it in more detail, but it is a chromosome disease where I have 3 X chromosomes instead of 2, although some people get like a much more severe like problem with it. But one of the symptoms is that like your muscles can't build or grow very well, and it like can't sustain muscle building. You can progressively build muscle, right? Like over a period of time, if you keep working at the things, eventually you will notice a change, physical change in like your muscle, like you'll get some muscle, okay? But my progress was very slow, and not because I wasn't trying. I soon developed almost an attachment to my physio exercises because I knew that they would protect me. They would protect my knees from dislocating, and I couldn't even miss like a day or two because not only would that make my anxiety go crazy, but like I could feel a actual difference in my knees. Like my knees just felt weak if I didn't keep exercising every single day. And even then it was only like some muscle growth, like enough so that they would work, but you couldn't really tell that like I had much muscle at all. Essentially, I just have to work like really hard, way harder than most people do, which we didn't even really realize at the time was a problem until it was obvious that like the physio exercises were not really keeping it all where it needed to be. Also, I kind of forgot to mention this and forgot to write it in here, but there was a period of time also where I was recommended to get a knee stabilizing brace thing. I remember this one day where I went to like some sort of like brace store, and Braceworks I think it's called, and oh, I just remember the smell. It is the most disgusting smell I'd ever smelled in my entire life, and I was like nauseous. If you've ever smelled like fresh plastic before, then I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. That was a sensory factor to my already anxious self that just made that a whole lot worse. I could not do it because they were trying to put it on, but in order to put it on you had to like, it had to be tight obviously, right? Because it had to like keep your kneecap in place, which requires a lot of extra outside like force. And it was like a full leg brace, or if not, it was like pretty big for tiny knee. And they had to like slide it up, like there wasn't any attachment around or anything. It was like sliding up. So my kneecap would like, it was already like so loose, but it would like move with the brace as you were, like it wouldn't like dislocate up. It like, even to the side, like you could see it like moving up, and it was like the most disgusting thing ever. And it already freaked me out because if anyone touched my knees or went near my knees, like I'd freak out because I just learned to become so afraid of them. So needless to say, I was not able to get a brace. Like we didn't even get it on me because like it freaked me out. Like having something on there would just be like the worst thing in the whole world because like you could feel it, like the kneecap move. And I think we might have gotten one brace on there, like a smaller one, but like I just couldn't. Like I had so much anxiety. I was screaming and crying in this like store. And it's like embarrassing. I was so embarrassed and like angry at myself because I knew that this might actually help me. My mom was angry at me. Sometimes you just have to like get over it, but like I could not. Also, another one of the things that I learned with my knees or like walking is that it would tend to dislocate going down a hill. Your legs naturally kind of bend to support yourself in a certain way when you're going down the hill, but whenever my knees would bend at that particular point, as I mentioned, it would dislocate. So I ended up walking down every hill with my knees bent. And it's as strange as it sounds, like literal, pretend these are knees bent, knee. Hopefully I did a decent job at explaining this. I'm not great at storytelling. Thank you for watching. See you later. Bye.